The UFC has a massive cheating problem, and today we're going to be talking about what it is and how to fix it. And the problem is that more and more fighters are strategically cheating in their fights. What got me thinking of this was the UFC's attempt to crack down on eye pokes with the new gloves that debuted at UFC 302. The gloves are supposed to be more rigid so you couldn't stick your fingers out, but this didn't change anything, as with the very first fight of the night in Andre Lima versus Mitch Raposo, there was 3 eye pokes in a 3-round fight. This was a theme throughout the night because there was just a ton more eye pokes on the card. But the reason why the UFC even had to try these gloves is because fighters have realized that it's a good thing to eye poke and just cheat in general. Just common sense wise, it's a massive advantage as you can stop someone from advancing, you can free up their hands on the ground and even just put them in pain with a little eye poke. And the logic tracks is there's a study that found that 74% of fighters who got eye poked in the first round went on to lose that fight. And this was over a couple thousand bouts, so you know what I'm saying? It's pretty legit data. But the reason why there is so much eye pokes and cheating is because under current reffing, there's no punishment for something like eye pokes. Let's take the GOAT of the sport, Jon Jones himself. Jon Jones is notorious for eye pokes. Type in Jon Jones eye poke on YouTube and you find a 3-minute compilation of him doing just that. Despite the copious amount of eye pokes, you might find it surprising that Jon Jones has never been deducted a point in his whole career for eye poking. And to all the people saying, oh, it's accidental, bro, you can't deduct a point for that. You can't let the referee get in the fight. It's about the fighters. Tons of fighters have came out and said that if you're eye poking, it's on you. It's your responsibility not to stick your fingers in another person's face. Like, the only way to remove fighters' ability to eye poke is just to fucking wear boxing gloves, because anything that has the fingers out there, you're going to have a position you can move your hand in a certain way to eye poke the dude. So it's on you to not extend your fingers when they're in another person's face. But let's dive into some examples to see how retarded the referees are about deducting or not deducting points. We're going to be looking at UFC 172 where Jon Jones fought Glover Teixeira. In this fight, Glover's strategy to beat Jones was to get inside and use his big KO power because Jones kind of outclassed him in every other way. But Jones' strategy was to keep him at range using 1, his massive reach, and number 2, eye pokes. As you can see, he had already brutally eye poked Glover twice before referee Dan Margliotta told Jones that if he did it again, he would deduct a point. Sits him down straight up, says, John, I've already warned you. Do it again, and I'm taking a point. Not even a round later, Jones clearly eye pokes Glover, and Dan still doesn't deduct him a point. It doesn't do shit about it. So in modern MMA, you'd be dumb to not incorporate eye pokes, to give you a decent advantage. Unless you're Chris Weidman, then you can just win with eye pokes. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking about Chris Weidman versus Bruno Silva, where Weidman eye poked Bruno twice before finishing him with a double eye poke TKO. Yes, you heard that right. What happens is Bruno comes in, Weidman just sticks his left middle finger in Silva's eye, then follows it up by sticking his pinky in Silva's right eye, literally fucking just blinding. Silva just having his eyes gouged out like a horror movie, drops to the floor, just holding his eyes in pain, screaming in pain. He's not even rocked from a punch or anything like that. It's not like Weidman rocked him or dropped him. Weidman then gets on top while he's holding his eye, lands some ground and pound, and wins the fight. This was a 3-round fight that featured 4 eye pokes with a Mortal Kombat double eye poke finisher, and you guessed it, Weidman wasn't deducted a single point. If you go on the scorecards, it's a 30-27. And I think this is because the refs don't want to affect the fight. They don't want the fans to get mad at them. They don't want it to end in a tie or a disqualification even. But by allowing this, you actually end up affecting the fight way more because you have bullshit like this. You have Chris Weidman finishing this dude with eye pokes and not getting punished for it. Like, Weidman should have a DQ loss. But eye pokes aren't the only way fighters cheat. To show the true effectiveness of cheating in MMA, we're going to take 2 legends of the MCA, which is the mixed cheating arts. So we're going to take a quick look at Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. In their third fight, Leon was just off the rails. He was off the rails cheating. I'm going to break down every time he cheated, which is just an insane amount. Leon Edwards tallied up 3 glove grabs that prevented Kamaru Usman from connecting his hands and, securing the takedown when they're on the fence. Follows that up with 5 fucking nut shots, 3 of which were when Usman was closing the distance, which stopped him from coming in. 1 was in the clinch where he just blatantly knees Usman in the balls. And then this last one, this is insane. He fully connects shin to gooch and literally fucking knocks Usman down, isn't separated by Herbie, and then Usman has to use extra energy scrambling back up. 2 of the trusty eye pokes when Usman was trying to come in with some right hands, and 2 brutal fence grabs, which literally were the reason Leon didn't get taken down. And yes, I know Leon was deducted 1 point for his second fence grab, but he should have been punished way more, in my opinion. Leon committed 12 fouls, with at minimum 10 of them being intentional. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on 2 of the nut shots, but the rest, you can watch him. It's pretty obvious what he's doing. And for all of that, Leon was only deducted 1 point, and if it wasn't for the second fence grab, he wouldn't have had any points deducted, which means he would have had 11 real fouls, like actual fouls, that had a massive effect but weren't punished. And when this fight was a split decision title fight, shit like this really starts to matter. But trust me, the way to fix this is to give the fighter one chance at most. For example, if they hit him with an eye poke, say keep your hands out of his face, and if you do it again, I'm taking a point. Same with something like glove grabbing. Because what happens is they warn fighters all the time, but they never actually follow through. They just keep warning them, and at most, they'll separate them, sit the guy down, and give him a like stern talking to, and just cap out of their ass for the commentator's team's sake. And for something more major like fence grabbing, if it prevents a takedown, if you're a dominant wrestler and the dude stays up because he grabbed the fence, deduct a point right off the rip and maybe even start them on the ground. Because yes, you should be extra punished when you fucking cheat. You're a cheater. And I think at a minimum, if you should get 3 fouls of any kind, add them up, maybe even 2, regardless of intent, you should immediately be deducted a point. Because literally in every other sport, regardless of intent, if you foul, you still get punished because it's not fair to the other guy. Like, dude, how is it fair for a guy like Mr. Decision, Bilal Muhammad, to have a no contest, wasting his time because Mr. Scissorhand Leon Edwards gouges his eyes out like he's in a prison camp fighting for his life? That should be a loss on Leon's record. I don't give a shit. And so if you've noticed, these cheaters, they're good. They're not just bums. We have 2 serial cheaters who are both in the top 3 for the pound for pound rankings. And it's because fighters new and old are evolving. My favorite example of this cheating evolution is 2 legends, DC and Stipe. DC, after learning the dark arts, after being fouled like a fucking million times between the 2 John Jones fight, sat back and was like, fuck it. He realized they don't give a fuck. So what DC does in the Stipe Miocic vs. Cormier 1 fight, after already being warned 3 times for sticking his fingers out, he just fucking completely jams his fingers in Stipe's eyes, and Stipe's screaming in agony with his eye completely useless. But don't worry, DC knows what's coming. Mark Goddard, scarily marches towards him. Hey buddy, this is a stern warning. But get back to fight. I'm not taking a point. I mean, he knows there's no punishment. Not even 30 seconds later, Cormier KOs Stipe in the clinch. Like maybe Stipe didn't even see that big overhand because I don't even know, his eye's completely useless. But don't worry, Stipe gets his revenge. Like some sort of fucked up dark arts society, he learns the way of the great cheaters before him, Jones, Edwards, and his new master, his new teacher, DC. So in their final fight, DC gives him a quick refresher on how to cheat by eye poking him in the first round. No consequence, of course. Stipe then, using his expert knowledge, gives one of the craziest eye pokes I've ever seen. Like, Stipe's goal right here is to have his fingernail touch DC's frontal lobe. I mean, DC's eye's completely useless for the rest of the fight. In the post-fight, you can see him, his eyes just completely useless. But don't worry, for this, Stipe was not only not deducted a point, Mark Goddard doesn't even believe DC and tells him it was a punch. Meanwhile, the commentary team's reviewing it and they see the finger literally knuckle deep in DC's eyes. So if it wasn't obvious enough, the more refs let this bullshit happen, the more cheating you're going to see in every fight, whether it's 2 champs fighting or 2 cans on the early prelims. Because when someone does that shit to you and they don't get punished for it, why would you not do it to someone else? But don't worry, MMA can be saved. All hope is not lost. The solution is so simple. Deduct points instantly or very soon. I'm talking about 2 fouls at the most. And if someone keeps ignoring your commands and blatantly ignore that shit, don't be afraid to just fucking DQ them. Like, Chris Weidman should have been DQ'd for sure, because he gets warned a million times and he doesn't give a shit. Just keeps doing it. But until then, whether you like it or not, don't be surprised when more and more fighters start doing these little, and I say little in quotes, they're a pretty fucking big deal, but all these fucking cheating, it starts adding up. Because you're kind of a fool if you're at that top edge and you're trying to just get that extra 10%. Why would you not? You know you're not going to get punished for it. You get at least like 2 before the ref even starts to think something's up. And even then, you'll still be fine as long as you just fucking space it out probably like 15 seconds. But that's what I thought on this. Thank you so much. It's John Does MMA. More videos are coming soon. See you later.